We'll officially call the meeting to order for our first meeting of 2025 at 5:30. Happy New Year to everybody.
Same to you.
Thank you so much for allowing us to change the meeting date to a Tuesday. That allowed me to do a presentation to the county commissioners on the raise grant, which we'll talk about in a minute, and it allowed Jesse to talk to Hydra, so do some public engagement. So much appreciated. So I don't think we have anybody new, and there's no one here from the public, so no public comment. So we've given the minutes from the November 18th meeting. Hopefully everyone's had a chance to review the minutes. And I'm looking for a motion to approve.
I make a motion to approve the minutes.
Second.
Okay. We have a first and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
I think that was unanimous. All right, so we are going to start today with some overviews. We're going to go a little bit provide an overview of the raise grant, and then we're going to talk about what we do as the NPO. We talked a little bit about both of these in the past, but just kind of as a refresher as we kick off this year. And then as we have these conversations towards the end, we'll see if there's any resounding items that you would like us to focus on throughout the year. This is a good opportunity to maybe establish any goals or topics that you would like to talk about. All right, so last meeting, which was in November, we talked about the Neuse, safer Neuse for New Bern, and this is an opportunity between the city of New Bern and NCDOT to apply for a raise grant. The raise grant is rebuilding American infrastructure with sustainability and equity. This is a $25 million potential investment for the city of New Bern to address safety issues. So the last time we talked, we kind of provided an overview of the project. This committee was gracious enough to sign a letter of support. So we are currently working on gathering letters of support. We are seeking or have received a resolution of support from the city of New Bern, and we're working with the county to get one from them as well. Nothing's really changed as far as the improvements remain the same. We're recommending a road diet from Glen Burnie to First Street. With that road diet, we also would be looking at either installing a sidewalk or a multi-use path on the north side, which is the hospital side, and the sidewalk on the south side. This project does include the roundabout that it's already funded at Neuse and MLK. So over the next couple of weeks, NCDOT's contractor is finalizing the grant application, and we are all pointed in the direction of submitting the grant by the end of the month. So fingers crossed, if we get awarded the grant, we'll be notified in the summer, and then the real work begins where we have probably a 2-year process of design, working public engagement, and then followed by construction. So if we get the award of the project, it's a big win for the city of New Bern and all of our residents. Does anyone have any specific questions about the project?
You might have said this, but when will you be notified?
I think it's the summer. I don't know if they
This summer?
Yeah, I don't know if they said it was May or just summer.
Okay.
But the consultant that's working on this project has submitted on behalf of NCDOT for prior raise grants, and they were successful. One thing we were super excited to learn was there's actually a lot of interest throughout the state to apply for this grant. So initially NCDOT was going to apply for the grant, but in order to leverage or maximize the amount of federal funds that are received from the state, the city of New Bern has graciously agreed to submit the application. So that allows DOT to submit 4, and then there's the city of New Bern and 2 other municipalities that will be submitting the application. But if we get awarded the application, we just get to delegate everything back to DOT. So we're just literally pushing the submit button. Any other questions on the grant? All right. So we're going to spend the next part of the meeting talking about what the NPO, I know we've talked about it in the past, but so NPO stands for Metropolitan Planning Organization. and it's the transportation policy making organization for our region. So we look at all modes of transportation. Most people think we just look at cars, but it's pedestrians, cyclists, rail, ferry, and airline as well. And so think of us as, kind of the local representative for local concerns. So DOT has, normally they're in a division or a district, and they're looking at large areas. But they don't know and have a good pulse on what we need and for our area, and that's kind of where we come in.
So are you just for New Bern or Craven County? What is, you're getting to that.
I'm getting there, hold on.
Okay,
So,
okay.
there you go.
Yeah.
So you can see we have a larger planning area, or the urbanized area. So what that looks at is you have the towns that are highlighted. So we've got Bridgeton, Riverbend, Trent Woods, and then Craven County, and of course New Bern. But we call it the New Bern planning area is because New Bern is the lead planning agency. So they're the one responsible for receiving the grant application, the grant funding, and submitting the paperwork. But your planning area boundary can change. And with one of our plans right now, we're looking at growing our planning area boundary to look at where's growth happening over the next 25 years. So we're talking about expanding the lower boundary to like Havelock. So that's something we've been talking about. You can't just say we want to move it or expand it. We have to actually spend some time doing some analysis. So that's what we're working on with our new plans. Let me go back. But I do want to point out that MPOs are federally mandated. So if you get urbanized through and recognized through census, so with the 2010 census, New Bern became urbanized, and with that opened up some federal funding. So you got funding to do transit system, to do transit planning, and to do long-range planning. Then with the 2020 census, we lost our urbanization status because we fell under 50,000. So it's not, the urbanized status is not determined based off of one city's population or even where you draw your planning area. It's clusters of people. There has to be so many clusters within this close proximity to each other. And we fell under that 50,000 threshold by less, I think it was like 1,500 people.
Do you know which areas it dropped?
It's not that granular. It's more like census blocks or tracts. So we're in this very interesting opportunity where we've lost some funding, and we have to figure out how to fund the gap in the interim until the next census, because we feel pretty confident that by the next census we'll become urbanized again, and then we get back similar funding. But even though we lost our urbanized status, we still are an MPO. DOT recognizes us as an MPO, again, because we're representing those local concerns. So multimodal transportation is where we're looking at, it's multidimensional, where we're looking at all the modes together and not just one independent. We've talked about that a lot when looking at Neuse Boulevard. So, we talk about a road project, but then we want to talk, how does a cyclist interact with this traffic? How does a pedestrian, or when you're constructing a roundabout, where are all of those opportunities for those modes to cross paths? So we always talk about the 3 C's. So it's cooperative, meaning that we have representation from all of our member agencies, as well as the public. It's continuing, meaning we're constantly updating plans and evaluating where is growth happening, and looking at what improvements are needed. Because, just because something came up as an issue in 1 year, if you wait 5 years with growth and change, it might not be the same issue. And so you're constantly looking at what projects need to be looked at. And then comprehensive, again, looking at all modes of transportation and looking at how it impacts not just transportation, but the surrounding community. So when you think of transportation, most people just focus on the modes. They are just looking at cars, vehicles, pedestrians, etc. In reality, when we look at transportation and we're looking at our plans, there's so many more factors that we have to take into account. We really look at the economic development, Safety's a really big one, accessibility, mobility. There's a real big push now with environment and resiliency, and then obviously integration and connectivity. So all of this together kind of plays in when we're talking about a project. So if someone has a concern about a potential intersection, we look at all of this. So it is sometimes very easy to pinpoint what the problem is, but you have to take a step back sometimes and kind of look at the bigger picture. So we do long-range planning. So we are housed here in development services. Development services, I always call, they kind of do the short-term or the fun planning, because it's all about what's happening right now. So here in development services, they're reviewing things like subdivisions and site plans, and we're looking at new restaurants and houses, etc. What we look at in the MPO are the horizon years, something that's 25, 40 years out. And a good example of this is the James City project. So that the James City project was identified as a project about 20 years ago, and it's just now being constructed. The typical highway or road project, once it gets funded, if it stays funded, takes about anywhere from 7 to 15 years from start to finish. Because these projects from a design perspective take at least 2 years, and then constructions are normally 3. But funding is, once it gets funded, it doesn't always remain funded. So we have a couple of different opportunities. So we have the comprehensive transportation plan, which is that first box on the left. That is something that's, think of that more as your vision. And that is something that's typically led by the rural planning organizations. We participate in the plan because those projects then feed into the Metropolitan Transportation Plan. And that plan, that in the blue box, is something that we are required to update every 4 years. And then there's other plans that we can work on, like corridor studies, feasibility studies. And all that just means that they're just smaller transportation plans that we can work on. So once we have an idea, it allows us to kind of dig a little bit deeper on what the issue is and how we can potentially solve it. So we talked about the member agencies, with the city of New Bern being the lead planning agency, which is why I'm here and housed in the city of New Bern. So the big question we always get is, okay, that sounds great, but how do we get a project selected and funded? And so we're going to kind of walk through this. So we start with the local concerns. So someone will notify us, well, I think this intersection's dangerous, or I think we need a new road connectivity, or a new bridge, or fill in the blank. And so it starts off with hearing local concerns, and then with the local concerns, it's then fed into that visionary plan of what could be. And then from that, it gets fed into the MTP. So now we went from a vision to something where it's more fiscally constrained, that, and it seems like it's going to be more reasonable, and we're pushing this project forward. So from that, we go to, it's submitted into what's called the Metropolitan Transportation Improvement Program. So the state has the STIP, which is the big one, and we have the MTIP, which is the small one. They say the same thing, it's just ours is for our area. Yes?
So this council is local concerns, is that what we
Yes.
said?
Yes. Great point, thank you. And so from the MTP, it gets fed into the MTIP, and then from the MTIP, it's mirrored into the STIP. So the STIP, is that 10-year list of projects. It has to be fiscally constrained. And this is when we talk about where projects fall off. They get funded and then fall off, or we get asked by DOT to prioritize projects. DOT kind of ran into a little bit of an issue a couple of years ago when, and this kind of happens about every 4 years, but they had limited funding. The cost estimates were a little bit low, but lower than what the actual costs are, and we had forms. And so with that, they had, their STIP was over-programmed, and so a lot of projects got decommitted, or and got pushed out to the last half of the STIP, which is not funded. So the STIP is how projects are funded, but STI, or the Strategic Transportation Investment, this is law that sets out an established process of how projects are receive funding. And it's data-driven, and it is in 3 categories that allows, or the intent is for like projects to compete with like projects. So they have what's called the statewide. So you have projects that compete throughout the entire state, like interstates. And then you have the region, which is more of like Eastern North Carolina region. And then you have the division, which is literally our division. And so, and each category is has the same criteria but different percentages, but it's extremely data driven. So even though you might say, we would like to see improvements with this intersection, there has to be some data behind it for us to substantiate the cost of improving that intersection. So if you say, well, this is much congestion. So, well, we can find out what the congestion is. We can calculate the travel time savings. We can look at the safety, and all of those are evaluated criteria that help score the projects. So the higher they score in each of those categories, the more likely they're going to get funded. So you throw all the projects in throughout that category, they all get ranked top to bottom. And you have, if $100 is all you have, and your first project is $50, and that first project gets funded, and then you go to the second project. And that's it. If you only have $100, but you have 10 projects, only 2 projects are getting funded. And unfortunately, that's just how it works. It's not a perfect system, and as part of this law, they are required to continually improve the system. And so that's what we're currently working on, is we're finishing up one cycle and starting another. So with that, what I just talked about is what's called prioritization. So we developed a list of projects, and it becomes, it's over a 10-year period. It's updated every 2 years, and we are just now finishing prioritization 7, or P7. We're finishing that, getting ready to get it adopted by the Board of Transportation, the MPO, and then later this summer, we start all over again with P8. But what's important is throughout this entire process, the public has opportunities to provide lots of input. So we start off at the very top left with submitting new project ideas. The MPO then submits it and considers them for review and analysis. We then submit those projects. DOT scores the projects. Then if they score high enough, they might get funded. And then if they get funded, they get put into the STIP, and then we start this all over again. But at each of these areas is opportunities for the public to provide comment and feedback. And it's actually federally mandated that we have a robust public engagement plan.
I have a question. They make no effort, kind of what we have tried to do a couple of times, is instead of saying, even though this ranked the highest, it's going to take all of the money, you can get 7 lower priority projects done for the same amount of money.
So there has been opportunity when, and it's really by NCDOT districts, that they have done that in the past. Where if you had a project that maybe didn't have as much money, or maybe wasn't as high of a priority, that they were able to kind of swap them out. So they have done that, and it seems like every time we do a cycle, there's always something unique or different about this one cycle that help advance projects. But yes, our goal is to, if the project's been identified as a need, to put it in the ground and let's get to the next cycle. Unfortunately, over the last couple of, with P7 and P6, there hasn't been enough funding. So we have, the need's really great, but the funding doesn't match the need. And so we're kind of in this same situation of what to do with P8. Because P8, we're in the same situation. So do we continue with the same projects, or do we add new projects? And that's something that the work group is working through now. So that kind of ends the NPO overview. We do have 2 committees that we have representation from all of our member agencies on a technical committee. And so those are your subject matter experts. both of these people are on the TCC. And then from that, they make recommendations to our advisory committee. So we have elected officials from each of our member agencies on the TAC. So they meet about 6 times a year or more, just depending on what's going on. But the next thing I wanted to talk about was opportunity for you guys to be involved. So this is a card that you can take that explains 2 plans that we're currently working on. So the MTP is our long-range plan. That long-range plan, remember, has to be updated every 4 years, so we're working on updating that. But updating that means that the opportunity to identify new projects. So obviously the projects that we've identified in the bike and ped plan will slide into the long-range plan as well. But as you navigate the city of New Bern and all of the planning area, if there's opportunities where you think we need to make some improvement, this is your chance to, and there'll be others, but this is just one chance for you to give us some feedback. We're also working on a safety action plan. So the safety action plan is looking at the entire region and looking at historically where have crashes occurred, and then looking at or projecting the likelihood of them continuing, and then if they were, how could we minimize that with some countermeasures? So for instance, maybe in a rural setting that we've noticed that there's a high crash rate maybe on a particular road. And so they might look at putting things in like a rumble strips on the side, or maybe some reflective signage, etc. So if you have an area that you know that, and from a safety perspective, let us know. We'd love to hear from you. So this QR code will take you to the NPO virtual room, that you can learn more about both plans, and also has a link to the survey you can take. So there's some more of these on the back counter there, so if you want to take some, pass them to your friends and family. The survey is going to be open until the end of January.
Does this fill your requirement to make sure the public is involved?
This is one of them. So as part of both of these plans, at the beginning, we've gone and done a number of public engagement opportunities. So we've gone to Riverbend National Night Out, we've been to the Farmers Market in New Bern, we went to a career center here for the county, and we went to, it was dogs in the parks, dogs in the park at Trentwood.
Not a pet owner, huh?
Yeah, that was fun. But yes, we're always looking for any opportunity to do engagement. Because again, trying to get the word out about what we do and really getting feedback from the public.
Did you hand these out at Hydra yesterday?
Yeah, no.
No, that would be a great audience. Because those people were engaged.
Man.
What's Hydra?
The historic, yes.
Oh, the historic,
Yeah.
okay, yeah.
Yeah, so they were, I had presented to them like a year or so ago. They are, wow, that is a great
Passionate group of
Yes.
people. Yeah.
And a lot more people in attendance than I was expecting. So, so what,
I know.
I know that, we kind of just gave you kind of an overview of 2 items that we've been talking about. As of last meeting, we set the new meeting schedule to start meeting quarterly. And so wanted to see if there was any particular topics that you guys were interested in learning that relates to the bike and ped plan. Just trying to see if you had any ideas.
I think I would just like to bring up, we brushed the topic of fundraising, and there were some t-shirt things thrown around, and then I believe the helmet giveaway came up and took our attention for a while, and then I haven't gotten back to it. So what would you suggest maybe is the next step to do something in that route?
I think that in order to get interest in doing that, like support for doing, I know
Right.
there's interest in this group to
Yeah.
do that,
Yeah.
that making a public comment and a word of alderman meeting introducing yourself, saying you're part of this committee, you're interested in having some more tasks. We have done everything you have asked us to do. This is something we're interested in, but we're looking for your blessing, you know, like that type of kind of thing. If
Okay.
somebody on this group is comfortable getting up and standing before them.
Okay, so you're
because
saying
our-
we need their blessing?
Yes.
Yes, okay.
Yeah.
So see, that's something
Yep.
I wouldn't have even thought of, so thank you.
Yep.
Yes.
I think any projects that we're interested in doing at this point, and most of them would require some funding or creation of some kind of other subgroup, I think needs to be presented to them, and we need to generate a little interest on their end, and it certainly would not hurt to reach out to Bob Brinson either and see if he'd speak on behalf of the request, probably at the same meeting, kind of
Okay.
double head them.
So I'm to ask for their, or whoever, would ask for their blessing, but do we have to have some ideas? Are they gonna say, what are your thoughts? Should I,
Yeah, I actually, you know,
I
think
just
it
wanna
would
be
great,
prepared.
like, in public comment, just say you've enjoyed being on this board, we have accomplished X, Y, and Z, because we've done everything they've asked to do at this point.
Yeah.
This is a standing committee, we're looking for some direction, and one of our ideas is doing this, and we're looking for your blessing, that kind of thing.
Yeah, okay,
Because
so-
it hasn't really been well reported to them what this committee has gotten done,
Mhm.
and I think in a couple of minutes in public comment will be a great time to get their attention and
Yeah.
spread the word.
so when you say this is what we're thinking about doing, as far as fundraising?
Yeah, I would say one idea we have is this.
Okay, and the one that has been thrown around is the t-shirts.
Yeah.
So is that a legitimate group? Would you say that that's a legitimate thing that we could say that we've been discussing?
Yes.
Because it's
Yeah, I
true,
think
we
that's
have
fair.
thought about that, we just haven't gone
Yep.
any further.
Yep.
Okay, so Jesse, I might give you a call. You seem to be really good with your words.
I'm happy to help.
I'm writing your last name down. Thank you very much,
You're
Matt. I
welcome.
really appreciate it. That's what I would like to go forward with, yeah.
I know in the past, there was some interest in doing like safety awareness, and so on the NPO side, I've been posting a lot more about safety, and so if you haven't been following us on our on Facebook, I post about at least 2 to 3 times a week about something safety, like either driving, motorcycle, pedestrians. So that was something that came out of this committee, that we wanted to see more awareness. I mean, we could talk also about doing like a pedestrian safety campaign, where I've seen we can explore that a little bit more about how other communities have implemented something like that. I think with a robust downtown, that would be a good start to get the businesses to kind of buy into. And it's a passive campaign, it doesn't have to be anything overt, but if that's something you're interested in, it's really, like Jesse said, we've accomplished everything we've been asked to accomplish it to this point, and so we're looking for guidance.
Okay, with that thought about people walking downtown, let me ask your opinion. This might be a George thing, I'm not sure. I walk with the lights, so because there's no pedestrian crossing lights in certain areas. So the light's green, traffic is heading there, that's when I walk the same direction as the traffic. What is the rule of thumb downtown, or in New Bern, when there's no cross?
You're walking with the traffic on solid green.
I'm walking with traffic on solid green.
That would be
Okay.
correct, because the side road
Yep.
you're crossing is on the red.
Right,
That would be-
that's the safest time to do it. That is, so we need to make people aware of that. Because I can stand there and wait, and then I watch everybody just go whenever they want to, so obviously people do not know. I don't want signs saying, do this though, that's, because this is such a beautiful town. But I'd like to talk about that in a safety campaign. Yes, how to walk and cross those streets when there's no pedestrian signal.
Well, if there's no traffic, why wait?
Yeah, no.
Well, I don't care if there's no traffic. I
Why?
care, what?
Why?
No, well, because at that point, the safety, you're safe, then go. I'm just saying, when I see that people are walking out in front of traffic, then that's when I notice it the most. Yes, of course, if there's no traffic, still follow the same law, but I guess what I'm saying is, I don't even want to approach that, whether there's traffic, do this, when there's not traffic, don't do this. I want to say that this is the way to do it. Traffic or no traffic. You see, I don't want to have two different rules.
And just the same way, just as you follow, you know, the red light and stop the traffic that you're crossing in front of. The pedestrians need to understand that is not a magic barrier.
Right.
It's just a light. The car, you still need to address it, to make sure the car stops before you.
Right, exactly. But I think because many of us were brought up that pedestrians have the right of way. So we therefore, and that's why I think that people downtown are just barreling out in front of cars no matter what. So, yeah, that was a concern. I walk every single night, so I've got a lot of ideas that I can share and see, but I don't have Facebook, so I will never be able to see what you read, right?
Okay.
So,
And PD would be the best to be able to address that for you
excuse me.
on pedestrian mode, the police department.
Yeah.
An officer.
One concern I have is frankly, drivers double the speed limit, like on Front Street or Broad Street.
Neuse
When
Street.
it's 25, I will see people
They do it on
driving 50
Neuse
miles
Street.
an hour.
And the police can do nothing, or they will not.
Can do nothing?
Well,
or
I never
don't?
see police on those streets, ever.
Well, they can't really, because the district attorney will not take a ticket unless it's 10 miles over the speed limit.
They will get it.
And there's no way you can go 36 miles an hour on Neuse Street.
Gotcha.
That's one thing.
That's good information.
They,
Well, it's
When
25
you're in
on
your
front.
car.
No, I'm just saying. No wonder, no, because
Harry's
I
like
will
taking
not be
the,
as, yeah, I know. I will not be as frustrated now when I see that, because I will know that
But-
there is something above and beyond the police officer.
now,
Yeah,
they're more likely to write a ticket for if you run a stop sign
yeah,
or roll through one. That's an easier ticket
yeah,
for them.
okay.
But they don't even have to write a ticket. If they pull somebody over, keep the lights flashing, give them a warning, everybody around there is going to see, hey, the police are paying attention to speed limits around here, and the word will get out.
Yeah, you got a great point, Henry.
That is,
That
but
is a great point.
Oh, yeah.
in 33 years of living on Neuse Street, I cannot get them to come
One of the
and do anything about the speed.
responsibilities for this committee of the resolution that was made for this committee is to advocate for local funding. So if they do go to the board, I would say, point that out.
That's a good point.
You know, that was a responsibility that they were charged with.
Park my car out.
I didn't know that.
halfway in the road.
Carrie said that as part of the resolution to establish
Part
the
of the
committee,
approved solution.
one of the key components is to advocate for local funding for projects. So,
Oh.
so whomever
Right.
addresses the board, that could be something you could call out specifically.
It's under section 2, that resolution.
And if anyone's interested, I think the resolution is on the city's website. If not, I can send you a copy.
It's not on the website.
It's not? Okay.
Okay, since we're on the speed limit thing, what is the next step to get the state to lower speed limits on certain areas that are state
So
controlled?
it's not as easy as you think.
No, I don't think it's easy at all.
So the roads have an established speed limit. There has to be concern expressed, so for instance, let's say it's the city of New Bern. The city of New Bern will say, we would like to reduce the speed on this corridor.
Mhm.
And then DOT does some speed analysis, and then they come back and have a conversation to say what that speed might be.
Okay, so
I
then,
know I'm oversimplifying it.
Yeah.
And
Oh,
that is
that's
great.
perfect, though.
And a lot of times you'll have a request, there was a section NC 55 that was requested by one of the aldermen to be reduced to 10 miles an hour. DOT came back out and did a study and said, well, the findings of the study suggest only a 5-mile-an-hour reduction.
Hey, that's better than nothing.
So
Okay, so.
They have a system to it, so it's applied the same everywhere.
Yeah, okay, well, that's good. So concerned express, you said City of New Bern. So if I had concerned express, it's not good enough. I have to present it to City of New Bern first, and then they can decide whether the city has a concern?
You mean for reducing the speed limit?
Yes.
Yeah, so should they just send it to you, George?
The best way would be, depending on the road section area, is to send it to your alderman and your ward, and then that way, it would, usually the way it happens is the board will then make a motion to make consensus to send you to your request to look at the section of road.
Super, okay,
That's-
great.
That's the normal process.
Okay, that's great, super, thank you. I noticed that from getting off 70, Glen Burnie, all the way down to Martin Luther King Boulevard, they had changed. I was reading somewhere that was actually changed.
It was.
So I was like, oh my gosh, there's hope, so,
And George Street was changed.
yeah,
So we changed it,
Yeah.
it was part of national also.
yeah, great. Thank you.
And speaking of downtown safety, if you drive downtown, the middle of all traffic signal is operational.
Yeah,
I saw it.
yeah.
Oh, it's operational now?
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah, thank you very much
Yes.
for all of that you do.
So I see a lot of people on bicycles that obviously don't know the right way of traffic because they're riding down the wrong way. And like I'll be riding my bike the right way, then they're coming up on me. They're on their phones while they're riding their bikes, not paying attention, and it almost causes a collision. So I don't know what to do to keep that from happening because I don't think the police are giving tickets to anybody that's doing that. So
Do you guys think that the next step would be to address the police department and ask them if they would consider doing that or something? That would be a police department thing, wouldn't it?
Yes, I would, yes, that's something we can certainly reach out to the police and inquire. And I think a lot of it it comes back to knowing the rules of the road for the different modes of transportation that we have. And perhaps that's something that we need to work on is maybe, you know, we focus on education.
Yeah.
You know, maybe we look at doing the passive education campaign, safety campaign for all modes of transportation. Maybe we could work with the school system and start teaching them at a younger age. So, I mean, I think there's some opportunities there if that's something that you would like to explore. But, you know, obviously, I think I don't think we're going to have this. It's not something we're going to be able to fix right away. I think it's something you have to change the mentality. And I think with New Bern wanting to become more bikeable, walkable community, that in time that will all come, that will all happen. It's just, I think we just need to start the education.
Is there like a designated month or anything for pedestrian and bike safety?
Yep. So October is pedestrian safety and
May is bicycle month.
Yeah, and so
It'd be great to do like some social media posts
Yep.
during that month, like just general education on bike safety.
It would be great to get a community bicycle ride going and get people like, you know, when I lived in Pensacola, people biked to work and they drove less during that month. So, but I don't think people really feel safe enough to ride their bikes to work around here because there's a lot of areas that aren't really like Trent Road. That's a major road that people ride their bikes on, but it's just no bike lane out there
right.
whatsoever.
Well, perhaps when you notify the Board of Aldermen of your interest in doing some fundraising, that maybe that can culminate with some type of bike ride education thing.
You can couple that with a fundraiser as well, huh?
Yeah.
Mhm. It could be for adults and kids. I mean, adults need the education just as much as kids do.
We could get the aldermen to ride to their meetings.
Yeah, that'd be nice.
Which one of them?
You know, we do the witches ride at Halloween, and that would be an opportunity to do some education
Yeah.
and stuff too.
A fundraiser could be the alderman, you sponsor an alderman, right? And if they don't like that,
See
maybe
who
they'll
makes
increase
it.
our budget some other way.
Yeah. All right, so I've heard lots of great ideas. So we'll let everyone kind of think more a little bit about how they want to kind of move forward with some of these ideas. I'll start looking at some safety campaigns to see what we can get some ideas from, and then we can kind of circle back and look to see what's happening in April. So our next meeting is April 7th. And so as you decide and talk about who's going to go to the public comment, let us know so we can be there in support, and let us know what other information we might need to provide for you guys.
So that person, excuse me, Carrie, go ahead.
You can only do public comment the first meeting of the month.
That's what I was just gonna ask. Okay, thank you.
First meeting of the month.
First meeting of the month. Okay, thank you. Good thing I let you go first, because see,
So that'll be on February 11th.
Carrie, did you cut your hair?
Yeah. I'm probably
Okay,
not.
so you are the Carrie that I know that had long hair, yeah.
That's voice.
I thought maybe it was a different person. It looks wonderful.
Thank you.
All right. Any other comments, questions, thoughts?
So are you the volunteer?
I have no idea yet. I'm gonna talk to
Working on
Jesse.
courage.
I'm gonna talk to Jesse. I'm
Maybe
gonna
y'all
see.
should go as a
No, I
group.
don't mind.
Oh, that's a
We
great.
should go, we should go
What
as
was
a
that?
group.
Group?
Y'all
We
can
should
go
go
as
as
a
a
group.
group.
Oh, that's fantastic. Okay, do you want me to talk to Jesse in the next couple of weeks and then?
You could have one person go and then I'll be there in support of her, that'd be fine. That would just look, that would look good.
Yeah.
What do you think?
I think the optics of it, if you pick a spokesperson, but the, people that will
Yeah.
support the committee are in the audience.
Right,
would be nice.
exactly.
And
Well,
our
well,
meetings are casual enough where right after public comment, you can leave if you do not want to stay for
Yeah.
the rest of it. You don't have to feel bad walking
Yeah.
out of it or anything. So
Yeah.
it's a short time for them.
But I still would like to.
I am happy to coach you through putting together an
Then
effective
I'll
talk.
email the group and we can discuss what Jesse has come up with. I'm just kidding. I'm pretty.
We're interested in getting a little direction from them too, and
Yeah,
I think it's appropriate if you all ask for it.
I'll ride them
Oh,
all.
yeah,
I don't know why
definitely.
we didn't think of
I
this.
know. I'm just
You look way behind there. You can walk.
Oh, I know I could walk.
Are you gonna bring the bike into the meeting?
Carry it up the stairs.
Up the
Have your
elevator. The
bike
elevator.
helmet, have your bike helmet to the side, and your reflective gear on, and
Get those recycled t-shirts like that lady had.
all right, if there's
All
nothing
right.
else good for the group, okay, then meeting's officially adjourned.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
That was great.